Hey, everybody. I'm Andres,
I'm Scott.
I'm Abe.
and this is Between Two Stands, a classical musicians podcast about classical music.
Always taking it seriously.
Yeah, I don't think we've ever gotten through that intro without one of us losing it.
I know. Well, we were just talking about Swedish fish, so it's we're
Okay.
right on track.
They are delicious. They're delicious. I think that if we can get free merch from anywhere, I will take the Swedish fish.
Don't say
packages.
this.
I think since Andres and I are parents, I think we'll take coffee. If there's
Yeah, coffee.
Yeah.
I also like. I'm also my old man treat, of choice is Raisinets.
Really?
Oh wow.
I really like Raisinets. Yeah.
Okay. When you get the black licorice stuff, like Good and Plenty, or like I kind of
Whoa.
love that. The black jelly beans, awesome.
I'm not
Good and
a
Plenty is
black
good.
licorice, but I haven't graduated to that level of dadness. God, you're not even a
milk
parent.
duds and popcorn.
Ooh,
Yeah.
that'd probably be pretty good.
It is. Gets
So,
stuck in your teeth, just like Swedish
what do
fish.
we got coming up? We got some cool concerts coming up.
Right into the news. I like it. Well, we already talked. We're just finishing our Hilary Hahn concert by the time this comes out, right? So the next thing we have is actually a pretty interesting concert with the Beethoven Violin Concerto and also a William Dawson piece, the Negro Folk Symphony,
Yeah.
which I think we ought to talk about that piece a little bit because it sort of lost fashion. There was a whole NPR story about this, and I don't know if y'all read it. I think Abe did. I don't know about you, Andres,
Yeah.
but
Maybe
I
we
haven't
can
had
put the
time to read
link-
much.
Maybe we can put the link in the description of this.
that's
show.
probably a good idea. Yeah. So check the description of this show for a link. I think that's a great idea. But
Scott.
one of those. So this piece, it was written in 1934 by William Dawson, and it was a huge hit. Like they played it. The premiere was with the Philadelphia Orchestra in Carnegie Hall, and it was written by William Dawson, a black man in Alabama. And it had this huge splash here, and I think it was played abroad quite a bit.
Yeah,
But
and
then
was
it kind of
18 months or something. It was like 18 months of consistent performing and then a complete drop off or something, right?
yes,
Yeah.
and it was recorded then, like in 1968, and like nothing until I know that we recorded it with Nami Yarvi in like 2001 or two. So there aren't that many recordings of this piece, but one of the things I think is really interesting, the title, like Negro Folk Symphony, and he was really adamant that it was called that the music, the spirituals that he was basing the piece off of were called Negro folk music.
Right.
And I thought that was super interesting, especially with Bartók being a contemporary of his and how that was so in fashion and how folk music had been getting more and more used by classical composers. And I was curious as to what y'all thought about that.
I just wanted to, define folk music, because it is kind of interesting in this case. It's traditional music of the people in a country or region, and with Bartók and right before we started, Scott, you were talking about Stravinsky and
Prokofiev, Shostakovich, yeah.
Right.
Because I sometimes classical music schooling and thought, there's a kind of a predisposed way that it's taught and that theory is taught. And then I think it's important for these composers to kind of like go back and kind of revisit the music that they grew up with and were, that's meaningful to them and their culture, especially in the case of African Americans in the South. I mean, music was such a big part of the culture there that I could see why it was important for him to be like, no, it needs to be Negro folk music. This is this is the type of music that it is.
Right, and another interesting aspect of classical composers using folk music in any capacity in their music is that folk music traditionally is passed down orally, right, from generation to generation, and then you have these composers coming in with a fairly scientific method in terms of
Yeah.
a way of how music is written and notated, and in some instances they're having to create new ways of notating the music because the folk music doesn't necessarily match with how it would need to be written in a
Right.
rhythm or to get that natural rhythmic inflection. Like we just played the El Salon Mexico by Copland, right? Who was he was so influenced by these dance halls in Mexico, and the meter is like 4/4, but it's really not at all that in the least bit, with downbeats in just the most random parts of the bar. And I mean, it's really interesting just how
Inherently,
creative
it's a
these composers
challenge.
had to get. Right.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, because yeah, like you said, it's not like these people are saying, "Oh, listen to this melody. Let me count it off for you, and I'm going to write it down in this, in this meter." It's like,
Right.
let's play it, and this is how it sounds, and that's that. And so it kind of poses a challenge for the composer to kind of like say, okay, how do I take this melody that I hear and play it, write it down so everyone can play it. But it is tough because with like those Hungarian, we were talking about the Hungarian folk songs that the Brahms wrote, and Dvorak wrote too. There's the case for that too, where like it doesn't have that like same like the downbeats are in weird places, and
Well, yeah, you have those dance rhythms. Like with Dvorak, he wrote
Right.
the Furient movements that were like scherzos. So they kind of sound, they're in three, like the minuets and waltzes, but the dance was actually the Furient that he was emulating. So it has a certain meter that was recognizable, and it was something that meant a lot to him and the land that he came from and the people there.
Right.
That was totally, like you said, part of their identity. And
Yeah.
it's interesting with Dvorak and Brahms writing those dance, Hungarian dances and these dance movements. And then with like Bartók and Kodály, with having the actual folk melodies as they transcribed them. And then as opposed to another, interesting part of classical music at this time was when composers that weren't part of that culture would start to write it, like Copland with El Salón México, and Ravel writing a lot of Spanish sounding music. And
Right.
there were these fashionable things to do at the time. And I think this piece, this Negro Folk Symphony, was really interesting because it's a person from within writing about it, with
Right.
obvious all the connotations thereof. It's like it just makes it more interesting for me now to try to understand that perspective.
Well, and I think another really, we sort of keep on bringing it back to like Beethoven or Brahms or Dvorak, but I think the quote that stuck out to me the most in the NPR article was that Dawson said that he wanted the work to be unmistakably not the work of a white man, which
yeah, I thought that
right,
was pretty striking too.
yeah. and I think based on the recordings that I listened to, it very much is that, right?
Absolutely. Another thing, it opens with a horn solo. Yes. It's pretty great.
Yeah, I mean, it's just especially African Americans in the South. I mean, music was such an such an important part of that culture, and it was so different than the music anywhere else. So I'm excited to perform it. It'll be it's a lot of meaning behind that.
Well, absolutely. Also, this was such a time when jazz was popular, and jazz being like the American musical scene, that
Yeah.
the fact that this was almost a throwback to this other thing that may have been more ignored
Right.
at the time.
The
I
precursor
think,
to it.
sure. It's really interesting, and I hope everybody gets a chance to hear it and enjoy that piece. The next
And
concert,
Beethoven Violin Concerto is cool too.
yeah. Then there's that, that
small
old
that's small
standby.
work.
Yeah.
The next concert, I think, is Home Alone in concert.
Which brings us to holiday season.
This is our holiday episode. Yes.
And Scott,
Yes.
what better way to discuss Christmas and holiday season than with two Jewish guys? Am I right?
Well, it's funny you mentioned that because I'm
Scott's
just
been
gonna.
doing research.
I have
Did you
been
bring a
doing
dreidel,
research.
Scott?
We're not playing that medley right now.
Or ever.
That one medley.
Or
Yes,
ever.
that
Right.
one medley. No. So I looked up an article, and it's 11 iconic Christmas songs that were written by Jews. That is the title of the article. So here we go. We've got the Christmas song, "Chestnuts Roasting on an Open Fire." These were written by, so a lot of these have multiple authors. And if you're like, no, that was written by this person, and they like one of the authors, they've done the research. Just trust me. I'll read the titles. Let It Snow, Santa Baby, It's the Most Wonderful Time of the Year, Silver Bells, which I'm very happy to report the original name was almost Tinkle Bells. Just enjoy that fact. White Christmas, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, Rockin' Around the Christmas Tree, Holly Jolly Christmas, Silver and Gold, and Walkin' in a Winter Wonderland. We're all written
Jews
by
are
your
good at
people.
writing Christmas songs, I guess. I don't,
They're
like
great at it. It wouldn't
we
be
have a lot of
it wouldn't be Christmas without Jewish Christmas songs.
and there wouldn't be Jewish Christmas without Chinese food and movies. So maybe that's where we're writing all the music at the Chinese restaurants. And White Christmas is the most popular, like most played Christmas song, I think. Maybe besides Mariah Carey's tune. But
oh my goodness. Okay, rewinding back a little bit, like with Home Alone and Christmas movies and everything, one of the things we do, and we've done every year, other than last year, is
What
Home
happened last
Alone. Nothing. It was like people just decided to stay home. They didn't really, yeah.
That makes sense.
So we do Home Alone in concert, and we play all the music that John Williams wrote the soundtrack for, and the movie plays. And it got us thinking about how different that type of playing is to what we normally do when we're playing our, Brahms concerts or the William Dawson or whatever piece that we're playing on stage. So, Andres, what are some of the things that you would point out as being like different or people could pay attention to if they were to come to Home Alone?
yeah, it's definitely different in the sense that it's more, I guess, confined to a box, if you will. Like there's a click that we all, you'll notice that we all have headphones in, and we're all listening to the same metronomic click.
Called a click track.
Click track, right? That it guarantees uniformity, of time. So
About 90% of the time, it's 100%.
yeah, I mean,
correct.
let's say that's the goal.
Right.
I mean, it also sticks with the movie then, because like the
Right.
tempo will change, and you'll have a percussion hit when somebody falls down, or who knows what happens
Right.
in the movie.
Or
Cymbals
actually,
crashing.
like I've noticed, like there's a one scene where they're turning on lights. The robbers from Home Alone are turning on lights in the house or on the block. They had control of like the lights or whatever, and so every time they turn on the lights to a house, there's like a a moment that the orchestra plays, and
Like a triangle just going.
yeah, a triangle or like a
then like
glockenspiel,
strings
like
like
ding.
ding.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So of course that has to really line up. Otherwise it would not make any sense. So that's kind of what, that's like the extreme case of when, the click track really has to line up with the orchestra or with the movie. So that's kind of a unique part of this. Well, I will back up and say, and Scott, you just recorded, with the movie, and you can probably attest to this too. But my stepdad, Steve Schaefer, has played on many movies, and I was lucky enough to kind of witness some of that process, and it's really interesting, and that is so different than what we're doing for Home Alone. We're playing through the whole thing in straight through, where in a recording session, they'll play each small snippet, which they call cues. It's not movements or pieces; they're called cues, and they'll play the cues and record it over and over until it's perfect, and then move on. So what we're doing is even unique to the recording process, because we're kind of playing it as if it's a concert. Whereas when they're playing it in Hollywood and in LA, it's very much like broken down. So it's kind of a cool combination of both disciplines.
It's a really different way of playing, I have to say. Like you mentioned, I did play in the studios once, and first off, like the studios used to have their own orchestras. So like there was the Warner Brothers Symphony, and there was and that and they were constantly working. They were constantly recording things. We did the Looney Tunes concert in October, and so we got to kind of see that. They don't do that anymore. It's just like the musicians mostly in LA, but kind of in other orchestras too. London does a lot of recording.
New York, I think New York Phil just recorded West Side Story, right? The Steven Spielberg.
Oh, did they?
Yeah.
I know that the Chicago Symphony did the soundtrack for Lincoln, which was like pretty interesting. Yeah. Maybe like those are sort of exception. Like I don't think they often do that, but also recording in the studios, there are a lot of musicians that kind of specialize in doing that, and they've been doing it for years and years and years. And it seems like Andres said, they do it as many times until it's perfect. But because time is expensive and recording is expensive, part of that culture, I think, is you want to get it right the first time. Like if you can show up not knowing what the music looks like and just sight read it perfectly, that is the goal.
Yeah, right. Exactly. And so it I guess the next logical question is, if there's a click track, why is there a conductor?
To screw us up.
Yeah.
Well, the conductor can usually in those situations act like a traffic cop, right? Where you're sort of like, because we don't always understand or remember what the count in for a specific part of a movie might be, and so we need to know, when to actually start playing.
Yeah, I think in this case, I always say like conductors are kind of traffic cops during the concert, but it's also like very, you need them even more so in rehearsals to kind of get your bearings, and I think it's even more so the case for this kind of music, because like you said, like there'll be a 3-click intro before we start playing, and the next one there's a 8-click intro before we start playing. And
in the Bugs Bunny show we just did, there was one of the concerts where we I think the first cartoon of the second half we had to restart after about 10 or 15 seconds because the click track in the conductor's headphone wasn't going, and he had to switch headphones and start over.
Oh, that's right.
And it's
that's
like
right.
in that instance, it's like, this thing's 3 or 4 minutes long, and if the conductor in that moment doesn't have a click track going, like it's done, right? So it's like the best, and that was, I think, the best way to handle that was just to say, let's just start over, go.
Right. It's just it's too much can go wrong, because the added element is the movie. Right. Like normally we're playing music and that's what we do. And that's fine. But like now that added element is to line it up with the movie, and that's where there's things can get difficult.
Well, this brings up another question, which is why don't we always have a click track, just to make sure that we.
That is a good question.
I mean,
let's just we can take the emotion out of it.
Yeah, that's the problem with concerts. There's just too much feeling.
Right. Right. I mean, yeah, but you're right. It could get sterile. You know what I mean? Like,
well, there are a couple things that there are a couple concerts where you almost need one. There's like Rachmaninoff plays Rachmaninoff. Do y'all know about this?
No.
They have a player piano that is cued to Rachmaninoff's playing of his own music. Oh. And I think they also have one of those for Rhapsody in Blue with Gershwin, like where it's as if you're playing with the composer, but the piano's playing itself. So tempo never changes. There's never any spontaneity, but you get to hear almost maybe what could be an authentic version. It's a very strange concept, but interesting.
Yeah.
I always go, whenever I hear about these things, I always go back to that video of Strauss checking his watch while he's conducting one of his pieces. And I wonder if you were to have a click track to that, if you'd also start to hear the ticking of his watch.
If you haven't seen that, check it out on YouTube. He is the most bored man alive conducting his own music. It's fantastic.
And his music is some of the most emotional.
Amazing. Yeah, exactly. But anyway, I do like, that is some of my favorite stuff to play is I really do enjoy playing with the movies, because first of all, it's always amazing music, it just because it's going on during a movie, it's really incredible, and it's also it is also different, it's also like we were saying, it's different than what we normally do, so it's kind of fun to add that extra layer of challenge, it definitely takes out certain other challenges too, because when there's a click in your head, you don't have to be like, oh, what is my part lining? Who's my part lining up with? Because you're kind of, it's already done for you. There's, it's already laid out. So that right. Part's kind of nice.
Well, then after, I guess just moving along, we have Home for the Holidays right after Home Alone.
That's true. I mean, I got to go back just 1 second, because I feel like as a percussionist doing this movie stuff, there are a lot of sound effects that you probably are responsible for making.
I tried to avoid the sound effect conversation.
And I just brought it up. I'm right back in.
Where he was going.
Just when you thought you were out.
Bring you back in.
So yeah, I mean, it is actually one of the coolest ones I saw was when I sat in. Yes, you're right. Percussion is responsible for a lot of those wacky sounds, especially in cartoons. You see that a lot.
We lost Abe.
And
that was my sound effect.
Honestly, the other one was that I know. The other genre that I noticed is scary movies. Actually, has a lot of like interesting percussive sound effects that you would like, instruments that you would never seen. I sat in on a session of the movie was called What Lies Beneath. Mm-hmm. You guys remember that?
Yeah.
And it was just the those screechy sounds. I mean, first of all, the soundtrack makes up the majority of a scary movie. There's these funny videos online where there's a scary movie playing and then they pair it with silly music, and the whole setting is gone. The whole feeling is completely gone. It's hilarious.
Have y'all seen that with You, where they take out his inner dialogue and there's just these long gaps in the conversation that are like so the so show awkward. You on Netflix. It's so funny. Anyway.
Yeah, it's the same thing. It creates a mood, and if that mood's broken, it's not believable anymore. So just kind of seeing how composers have used percussion instruments. For example, like the one that I think about now is like a water phone, which is basically a metal canister with metal like sticks coming out of it. And you actually use a bow. It's filled with water, and you use a bow to bow the metal sticks. and
Use a
the
cello
water,
bow because those are the cheapest.
those are the cheapest ones. Yeah. Yeah. I borrowed
But
Abe's
you
a few
use
times.
based rosin because it's the stickiest.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
But it creates this like really freaky sound that I'm sure we've all heard before in scary movies. It's like a screechy sound, but yeah, it is kind of a cool thing to see that live, because you know we've all heard it a million times, but to see what actually it makes and emits that sound is these acoustic instruments that are awesome.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we can do a whole deep dive on sound effects, but I think one of my favorite stories is there's this. I think it's the laser guns in Star Wars, right? Those laser guns. The Star Wars fans are gonna hate me after this. Laser guns, but the sound effect that they use for the gun shooting in Star Wars was made by like tapping the wire that holds a power pole up straight or something, and they like put a microphone on the wire and like hit the wire or like scratched it with something, and it made that sound, and that's how they came up with that.
Yeah, that's like Foley artists, right? I mean, isn't that like just like recording sounds that, you know,
I love it.
When yeah, it's so cool. You know, when someone's trudging through snow, they can't, you can't hear that, so there's actually someone who's recording that sound.
Right.
Which would be a fun job, I feel like, you know. That you have to get creative. Like a punch in the face is actually someone breaking celery stalks, you know, like
right.
It's kind of crazy, but no, it is always fun.
Also
to see.
delicious.
Also delicious and nutritious.
Yeah.
Especially if you put raisins.
Anyway, yeah.
and peanut butter.
Yeah, exactly.
Peanut butter raisinets. You'd have your whole.
Don't tease me. Don't tease
on
me.
a log, right?
Oh, that'd be good.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a great way to come back to home for the holidays.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's go marching.
Yeah. Okay, Dave Matthews.
Oh. So home for the holidays. We've got our big holiday concert bash. After Home Alone.
I think this year is going to be. I mean, because there was that reason that everybody stayed home last year.
Yeah. Bummer.
I feel like this year could be extra special because I think some families are going to be getting together again for the first time, hopefully coming to our concert. Right.
That would be nice. I know that it's been a tradition for so many people, and to get that back on track would be nice. Do you think Santa's going to be there?
Who's Santa? What is...
That's a good question.
Santa?
I'm asking the wrong people.
You're asking the wrong people here, Scott.
Oh yeah.
Moses might show up. What is your guys' favorite Christmas tune?
I mean, I'll just jump in. I like, and this is funny, I like Hark the Herald, but I like it because Mendelssohn wrote it for like the 100th anniversary of the printing press.
Oh, wow.
And I don't know if that number's right, but my history's failing me. But then he was like, you can use this melody for any occasion, any special occasion, as long as it's not religious.
Perfect.
And now it's
perfect.
Like
some jerk didn't read the fine print. I actually love the Christmas song. I love that one in terms of like a tune. But I gotta say that what we've been doing in terms of playing, what I'm looking forward to the most, we've had this tradition of doing the 12 days of Christmas, and I love what we've been doing for that. Where when you sing the 5 golden rings, we move the microphone to someone in the audience, and as a performer, I freaking love that. I love seeing who volunteers and who it's going to go to and how they do it. And, some people are good at it, let's say, and some people aren't, but it doesn't matter. It's funny. And sometimes the ones that aren't good at it are the best, in terms of entertainment. But that's one that I really enjoy playing. And I love that we do that.
Definitely. There's always some fun to be had with that concert. I feel like that's a great opportunity to just like, relax, enjoy some music, and have a good time.
Absolutely.
It's a window into like the people who volunteer for that particular event.
Well, also you see the people
I'm
who
gonna
like,
be great at this.
or you see like the families who are pointing to their dad or their husbands, like, this guy wants to do it, and the dad's like, no.
No. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a good tradition. I like that one.
Yeah.
But also, I think the orchestra enjoys that one too.
Yeah, exactly, and that's that's what matters. That's all that matters.
All right, guys, I have a couple random factoids to quiz you about.
Excellent. Stump the Musie. Here we go.
I don't even. It doesn't even need to be a game. It's just I found these really weird facts, and I wanted to.
But how do we win?
See if you knew them.
How do I win?
It's the holiday season, Andres. You don't need to win.
Oh, everyone's a winner.
We can. Everyone's a winner.
I don't think
as long as you don't get a lump of
you get a participation trophy, okay? An acknowledgement of your presence.
I have so many participation trophies.
Me too. Brings me back to the days where I just was a bench warmer on the baseball team.
Oh,
yeah.
Sure, your parents are proud.
Okay, so here we go. Question number 1. There is a composer who has 2 skulls in his tomb. One is real and one is fake. His head was stolen and replaced with a skull that was fake, clearly. And in 1954, the real skull was restored, but the substitute skull was also left behind. Name that composer.
I remember reading this one time.
I'll give you. I'll let you know, Scott. I think you're going to go with Bruckner, and it's not.
I wasn't going to go with Bruckner. I was thinking.
That's who I was going.
I was thinking it might be one of somebody that Bruckner was a fan of. I was thinking, well, would it be Wagner?
No. Andres, you want to take a guess?
Yeah, let me take a guess here. Wild guess here. Who the heck would?
And like, who would end up getting their skull stolen?
Right.
I'm not sure that person had control over their skull.
I'm gonna throw it out. Schumann.
No, it was actually Haydn.
Oh,
whoa!
Yeah,
really? I didn't take him to be that weird.
Well, it was just somebody. It was. I don't think
Haydn was a weirdo.
Yeah.
I got to re-listen to all of his hundreds of symphonies and have that in mind now,
and figure out why he has 2 skulls.
Right.
This one came from the other head.
Yeah. Okay.
This is like a Halloween. This is like a Halloween themed here.
No, this is holiday themed.
Oh, okay. Right.
Okay, so Scarlatti composed his cat fugue after his cat walked across his keyboard. What was his cat's name?
Kitty? Scarcity? Scarcati?
Monteverdi.
No.
No. Okay.
Pulcinella.
Not Scar.
Oh,
Oh, nice.
Interesting, right?
Yeah, that's a hard name to like. Hey, Pulcinella, come here, Pulcinella. It's a hard one to. It doesn't really roll off the tongue.
Yeah.
Pulci. What do you call it? What's a nickname? Nelly.
I don't know, man.
we were close.
Yeah. I like Scarcati.
That's pretty good. Just like Scar later became the bad guy in The Lion King.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
What's the next one, Abe?
Hang on.
I'm ready to get the next one wrong.
Yeah, exactly. I don't
Okay.
even think we're gonna be close here.
Here is an interesting one. The world's longest running performance will end in the year 2640. It is a piece called As Slow as Possible, played on a pre-programmed organ of some sort. Who is the composer?
John
John
Cage.
Cage.
I had to give you guys a freebie, you know.
Yeah. Didn't the chord just change recently? Isn't
I
that
think
was big
so.
news?
Yeah.
Like last year.
Big news. The chord's going to change.
What's also interesting is apparently the organ, like when the piece started, the organ wasn't finished, so they were still finishing the construction on it, and they had
that's
to get
funny.
certain pieces in place before the chord changed.
Oh my god, that's
Yeah.
It's funny that organ's basically for the first many decades of its existence is dedicated to that piece.
I mean, do you think it ends in a repeat?
Yeah. That would be very John Cage, wouldn't it?
I feel like
Either that or
has
it
to.
ends with 4 minutes and 33 seconds of silence.
Yeah.
It's a double feature.
Sorry, when is the end? When is the end of that?
The year 2640.
Oh, wow. Okay, so
40.
Yeah.
Yeah, you heard that
so
right.
It's like
Sorry, not decades,
639
like
years
centuries.
long. Yeah.
centuries.
Okay. Last question. I don't know who's winning. I don't know who's losing. Everybody gets a participation trophy. Okay. In 2016, this composer sold more CDs than Beyonce.
I'm going to go Beethoven.
No.
John Williams.
You know, that was Cheryl's guess, and it's wrong. It's actually Mozart.
What?
No,
What
I
happened
knew-
in 2016?
So they released a complete box set of 200 CDs. And so I think I would assume that the way that they calculated it is that the individual CDs in the box counted. Also, Mozart had the advantage that it was many different pieces played by many different people, whereas I think usually Beyonce just
Right.
records her own music.
Right, that's true.
Well, it would be really hard for Mozart to record his own music right now.
Why?
Yeah,
I got
be
bad
a
news,
little
Abe.
quiet. A little quiet.
Wait, what happened?
You never made it to the end of Amadeus, did you?
No. I fell asleep. It was way too long.
And the music was so boring. Well, I'm looking forward to all that, and I know that we hope that everybody listening has a good holiday season with hopefully with the people that you want to be around, and maybe some of the people you couldn't be around last year for obvious reasons. So, wishing you the best of holidays. Abe forgets easily. But wishing you the best of holidays, and we'll see you again soon.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
All right. Bye, everybody.